everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Laura Afonso, and we are live here for GoLocal Prov in downtown Providence. And we have some mouth-watering local eats in store for you all today. And we are starting off with a really strong one. Sean Larkin from Revival Brewing Company, thank you so much for joining us
You're
today.
welcome. Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Of course. You are really like making some big waves here in Rhode Island between beer and, you know, the word on the street is the ramen is what's going on.
It's very controversial, but we're pretty psyched about it. It's doing really well in Cranston.
So before we really get into everything, I really want to hear about your backstory. What got you into all of this? When did you start brewing beer and how?
So I started in culinary school right after high school. Worked for about 2 years before transitioning into a brewing career. So in '96, I started working for Trinity Brew House. I started working for Narragansett in about 2006, part-time doing recipe consulting, and then somewhere around 2009 is when I decided I wanted to start Revival. And I got together with some business partners and made some plans, and then started slowly, and here we are today.
Wow. So you're no stranger to some hops.
No, no stranger to jumping through hops or hoops.
No, definitely not. So what was your vision for Revival when you had the idea come to mind?
I mean, really, I think back in the day, the craft beer landscape in Rhode Island was much different. There was 5 breweries. We were brewing a lot of beer at Trinity that people were really excited about, and they were asking, when they could get these beers in different formats. And really, my entrepreneurial spirit is what led me to wanting to do something for myself. The folks at Trinity are still super supportive of my career and everything that we've done. But basically, I outgrew that place after 17 years and just wanted to do some stuff that was Rhode Island-centric to bring to either the Eastern Seaboard or the national market, depending on what our lofty goals were back in the day.
Goals can never get too big, though, right?
No.
Awesome.
You got to stay focused.
Of course. So talk to me about beer. You know just about everything there is to know about brewing it, drinking it, loving it. What have you got brewing, and what's going on in the beer industry?
So we're basically, we've got 2 releases this weekend. We're going to release our Oceanic State Pale Ale, which is called the Hammer, and then Neffy, which is our Imperial Red Ale. We're going to release that on Sunday. The craft beer market in Rhode Island and in general in the U.S. is uber competitive. Luckily, we've been in this game for a long time, and we have a very good craft beer reputation.
Absolutely.
As well as our reputations within the food community and working with different folks. So really what Revival is trying to stay rooted in is the partnership between food and beer at the same time, if that makes any sense. I don't know. We'll see.
Definitely. What kind of trends are you seeing in craft beer right now?
Still a lot of certainly hazy IPAs. People are definitely chasing new hop varieties and going after that. The fruited sours have taken off for us. Pinkie Swear is notorious. Hailberry did really well. We've got 3 other real big fruited sours that are going to come out over the summertime.
Yeah, sours are pretty big right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's been a huge trend for a long time. But we're pretty excited about it. Last year I was apprehensive about doing it, but Pinkie Swear was so successful that we couldn't not continue the trend.
So tell me about Pinkie Swear and what made it so popular.
So Pinkie Swear is basically a raspberry kettle sour. There's a difference between spontaneous sour beers, which are wild yeast doing what they do, and it takes a longer period of time to ferment them. And then there are what's called kettle sours, which are basically beers that you'll add lactic acid to and or yogurt or some other catalyst to speed up the pH process from changing from 5.5 down to like 3.5. So you have more of an acidic style beer. So usually what happens is we brew our beer, we'll let it sit over the weekend in the kettle at its desired temperature, and then the pH falls from 5.5 to about 3.5, which basically gives something a very tart flavor. The addition of fruit, in the case of Pinkie Swear, we're doing raspberry puree, is like the perfect match for that sweet and tart. So, and it's super refreshing for the summertime. It like has taken off like nobody's business. So we've been pretty excited about it.
Definitely. Great for the change of season.
Oh, absolutely.
We're all ready for it.
I'll sometimes start my morning with it. Maybe not.
I don't blame you.
No.
Instead of orange juice, just go with that.
Yeah, it's like a smoothie, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you guys, you have some really incredible flavors and a lot of depth, and it really is an intricate process that goes into it, because I would have never, really expected all of that to go into making a beer.
Yeah, it's way more involved than just like pouring bags of stuff into stuff. You know, in high school when they said you'll use algebra and chemistry, I definitely shook that off, and now that's, you know, pretty much my entire life. So that's the iron.
Everything has to be just the right balance.
Absolutely, yeah.
Definitely. Now, you mentioned before that you like to keep things local in Rhode Island and working with Rhode Islanders. I love that you do a lot of collaborations between small businesses, restaurants, keeping it connected in the local industry. Tell me about some of the people who you've collabed with recently, and why you always, you know, keep this trend going.
I think it's things, I don't like things that are forced, so a lot of the collaborations were things that happen naturally. The very first collaboration we ever did were with the folks from White Electric Coffee Company.
Definitely.
When we were over at Trinity Brew House, I was using their coffee to create the White Electric Coffee Stout, and then when Revival left Trinity, we were able to put it into bottles first and then cans next. White Electric's always been sort of the cultural hub of arts and music, and definitely my favorite coffee shop. Shout out to Tom and Heather. I love you guys. Thank you. So we partnered with them first. Over time, we've done collaborations with both the folks from Brass Monkey and El Rancho to do the Holy Mole beer. We've done Tranquilo with them. Who else have we done collaborations with? Granny Squibs. Granny Squibs is the most recent in the past 2 years.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we did a iced tea style pale ale with green tea called the Daring that we released probably about 2 years ago. And this year we're reformulating that. And then also you mentioned Shane from Burgundy, and we just did a collaboration with those guys. So, you know, there are things that naturally fall into place and partnerships that make sense, and we try not to force it. So that's how we stylize it.
Yeah, I really loved the rosé beer. I think that one was a lot of fun, really, really popular.
We were psyched about it. It's some of my favorite artwork that's sort of, you know, come out of our camp. Our designer, AJ Paglia, shout out to him, is down in Georgia, and really it's like a lot of late night phone calls between him and I when we talk about what we want to do. The rosé artwork is so strong and resonated so much, and we had such a short season with it that we can't wait to re-release it again this year. So we're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that. I've been thinking about your artwork. It's just absolutely beautiful, and across the board, it's always a different message, but always consistently, you know, unique to what your brand is representing.
It's very, you know, it was one of those things where we trusted him to build our brand in that way. You know, and in the beginning, I wanted to try to micromanage a lot of those things, you know, design elements, brewing of the beer, and it was best to, you know, give it away to AJ, who just knocks it out of the park. And, you know, I can't ask for a better partner in crime on that. So thanks, AJ.
Yeah, he does a really fantastic job.
He's all right.
Absolutely. So, talk to me about your recent expansion, what you've got going on Aqueduct.
Whew. Well, it's a lot of lost sleep. We moved our tap room up from the basement to the entirety of the restaurant at 505. Eventually, the whole restaurant will get its redesign, but right now, we've worked really hard on stabilizing the food and the menu and really delivering, you know, our version of street food, you know, in its quote-unquote essence. You know, really what street food means to us are, you know, things that you would find either on a cart or at a late night spot, you know, on the side of the road. We're not trying to, you know, search for tenderloin or super premium cuts of meat. You know, we're trying to do the types of food that you would find, I say like peasant, but peasant's probably the wrong word, more like common man type of, you know, type of food. You know, the ramen spurred, or the ramen idea
cue the ramen.
Cue the ramen.
And it's beautifully done, though. It's not just, I think it's funny that you say that. It's like the working man's food, but it's not, you're taking something that is pretty simple,
right.
but you're making it into a very well done, well presented, beautiful dish. This is a gorgeous bowl of ramen.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
It tastes amazing, too.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite dishes was ramen as a kid, and I've eaten at tons of different ramen places around the country. For the pork belly ramen, we marinate our pork in beer the night before.
Oh, wow.
We smoke it, then we pull it out of the smoker, we braise it, and then we set it and let it sit again, and then we thin slice it to put it inside the ramen. So there's really a lot of thought in what we do. I wouldn't call it authentic Japanese ramen by any means, but it's our Cranstonian version of ramen. And if you look at the internet and all the sort of back and forth on it, people have been pretty psyched about it.
Yeah, I've just been hearing a lot of buzz about the ramen, and you have to try it.
Yeah.
So I really think it's been getting some fantastic feedback.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, of course. But you also have some really other delicious things in store. So let's start. Tell me a little bit about this guy.
So this is our pork Sando, formerly known as the Pork Chop Express.
Okay.
It, again, is another use of pork belly. This is our food fight sandwich, so we figured we'd bring it, promote it, and basically it is a porchetta style sandwich, meaning that we're taking pork belly, pounding it, rolling it with herbs, hand tying it, baking it in the oven, and then hand slicing it so that there's a savory layer of skin, fat, and meat all in there, topped with apple chutney, mixed greens, and then pickled cabbage underneath, and hand-cut French fries. So it is pub food in its essence, and it's pretty delicious, if I do so say myself.
I wouldn't say that this is pub food. I think that this sounds like way above. This is a labor of love. You're really putting a lot of effort and thought and what's going into the flavors, the textures, what it's going to taste like when you bite into it, like you said, like layer of skin and the juiciness of it. There's a lot of thought that's going into this.
Yeah, I mean, the integrity really lies with, us operating a scratch kitchen to the best of our abilities, and, taking food and breaking it down from, how you would get it from the farm or from the butcher, and really like creating it into something. We could have, called up our local purveyor and got, pre-made porchetta, but that wouldn't be us, so that's not our style.
You got to put your own touch on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is RI Food Fighters. You have to get your hands on the sandwich. I know that I'm excited to try it, and it's going to be a really, really good one.
Awesome.
So what's your favorite thing on the menu? I'm assuming that it might be the ramen, but other than that.
Well, this weekend we decided to sort of think outside the box a little bit.
Of course,
instead of doing our normal boiled dinner, we ended up doing corned beef banh mi sandwiches.
I heard
awesome.
about them. Oh my God, I had people calling me to tell me about them.
Well, they were super delicious.
Yeah.
We ended up doing chicken liver pate on them, pickled carrots, cucumbers and or cabbage. Super refreshing. They were wildly popular on St. Patrick's Day, and I think it was like definitely a panic moment for me where you hope you've chosen the right path when you develop a special for the weekend, but it was awesome and
sounds like it was a home run.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty good.
Absolutely.
So, I'll take home run. I'll take it.
I'm going with home run.
All right, I'll take it. All right.
So what other changes can we expect on Atwood Ave?
We're going to develop our patio into sort of more of like an outside beer garden. Right now it's just picnic tables out there, but we're going to put banquettes out there.
Awesome.
Some vegetation that, or vine growing, ivy, hops, morning glories, things that are going to grow and sort of make that space slightly more intimate. We're thinking about putting a pizza oven feature out there.
Ooh.
Whether or not that actually happens, that's on the list of things to talk about.
Definitely.
And then certainly, we've talked with Kyla Coburn, who's my homie, partner in crime, about getting in there and finishing the place out in its redesign. So hopefully that's in the next 6 months over there. So we're pretty excited about what the changes will be.
I'm pretty excited. I'm ready to go sit outside and drink maybe a rosé beer
on
a patio table. That sounds fantastic. You know, I think that it's a little bit gray right now, but we're that close. We're getting that taste of spring. We're all ready for that outdoor.
The windows are open in my house, that's for sure. So
I'm ready. It. Yes.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and bringing us this delicious food. Can't wait to dig into everything, and I'm going to have my own opinion on your very exciting ramen.
You let me know.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for coming in, and don't go anywhere because we have Roti Hand Cafe coming up in just a moment.